One lie turning. One line to see what I see. One lie turned into a family. One line to one live. Which do you prefer? It so were. It showed my ways. Witty ways don't do what he could tea. We could way show with witties. He, the man had promised forever. To you he would promise to be. The women I'd promised forever. See? Cool with CY? To third present. The women was CWD. CY? The women was CY. CY, 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 CY. They were. CY. They were. They were with free wise. CYYs. But that world would you prefer poity full. But that world was about to shatter. And the smiling faces in the picture would become a cruel mockery of the truth. What do we can kell started pretty freety for the single size to a singly faily sigens. But which do you prefer? It which do you prefer? It was the first crack in the found days. It would seem with it as prowess to freeways. The betrayal came disguised as concern. Blowy fluey for destway. Whitty for lorry flowy for way with. We seemed so distant acted us. She wrote act. Is if we prefer? Is if we prefer? Is everything okay between you two? I reassured her, brushing it over eyes. And work stress eyes. But her words bland. It would prefer. But her words blanted. Gruder, we could prefer. We could prefer we could they could prophone. Good at coast at we could take. In the other way. It could prophone to code. The way who do you prefer? We could prefer the way he'd flinch when I touched his phone. Chloe Suppin, she was does. Look at her. It's a free for destiny. By we can take a consi. We could be a slash confusion. So I could bizen to get their pelter. I would do a /1/Dawels dester /daster dastool. That faxed. The man I loved with lass. The man, the ode, the man's the man. And man the stare that my sisters. And my sister Dester got guiding dotting me. They would guiding me. They would be. They would bags. They would bag, they would bad in. They would bad their sester. And they would bad their sester. And they would bide. And they would bad their sester. And they would bag their sester. And they would bag their sester dast and they would bad in. God basn't their sesters. Elwe, cade. Come down, azode, azo, quote, Elwe would bag bad bag dow. With, Elwe were long with were loming, Elwe were loming dow with Elwe were long with were loming quote with Elwers. Elwe were long with Elwe were long with Elwe were long with Elwe were long were telling by we were telling with quar were with Elwe were telling with their long were telling with sis, they were telling dalding too. They were. We were long with where we're telling they were telling dal with thin, and dal with thin. I felt isolated I felt isolated. I felt isolated. I felt I could pass. I felt I could class. We said I say to say, which do you prefer a flay? I didn't ender. Finally, it'll kitty for yesterday. Any longer, now we can take the truth of it. One even for two. One evening way in the less days. One evening ways in the ways. One evening are there. One evening ways in one way. We could prefer. I watched his face, contort of ways. We could provert and water to confusion, to second. The donor could provide to prowlize, realize. Good you a phone with hands who could fern with he. We could get his phone way size who had hands to candidas hand with hand handed it to me. You see the feudies, size freedy size, just looked at my message. It would prefer please would please let loose down. It would please stacked our world didn't just shatter. It evaporated decib to the freelace.tor dissage, they were from him to Chloe. Huey for Thod Streety. Freeway for the stop with you. Freeway for the destiny. For we. Freeway for the destiny. Her replies. Her replies were cold. Her replies were replies. Her replies. Her replied. With her. They're in the mister. They're replying her. It's Thewo. If you could be contality, which do you prefer? We would do either way to way could we prefine to see with. It was about her obsession. She didn't want to protect me. Say, did you honored? To replace, doubter to. The lie would see freeway. would a cold hard clarity washed over me. 8. A cold hard clarity. Wast her would fuck it owed. A cold way of my sorrow it. Wast her with we a use. If I still win a why story, it was expended a weed. This was a declaration of war. And, as I looked up for me, we preferred my screen. And as I looked up from the screen into, when I would be, we could calmed up some for they could be, she would have to come and take it. But as I started to plan, I found him as I started to plan. I found I hadn't find a hit on a house I saw. And who would I saw I could a loved? This wasn't the first time she had done this.